It was a cloudy Tuesday morning in the small coastal town of Fairview, the kind of day where the sea breeze feels almost heavy with unspoken thoughts. I had always believed life moved slowly here, that nothing could disturb the peaceful rhythm of my days. That belief shattered one afternoon, and the ripple it created would take months to fade. My name is Elena Parker, and for most of my adult life, I had been the type of person others counted on for stability. I worked as a piano teacher in a modest but warm little studio above a bakery on Main Street. My husband, Daniel, was a high school literature teacher, calm, methodical, and the sort of man who preferred tea over coffee and paperbacks over ebooks. We had been married for 14 years. Our marriage wasn't bad, just quiet, predictable, the kind of relationship that survives on mutual respect but lacks the fire it once had. Over time, I learned not to expect surprise dinners, long drives, or spontaneous adventures. I told myself stability was better than chaos. But then came Noah Bryant. He first appeared on a rainy Thursday, standing in the doorway of my studio, shoulders damp from the drizzle. He was in his early 30s, a little younger than me, and carried himself like someone used to being underestimated. He introduced himself as the older brother of one of my teen students who'd been sick for a few weeks. "I thought I'd take her place for the lesson," he said, almost sheepishly. "I've always wanted to learn piano, and she's been telling me you're a great teacher." There was nothing remarkable about his request. I had occasionally taught parents or siblings who tagged along. But there was something in his eyes, an openness, a genuine eagerness to learn, that made me nod without hesitation. From the first moment his fingers touched the keys, I saw the telltale signs of someone who wanted to master every note. He was nervous, his hands trembling slightly as he pressed down on middle C. I smiled, not out of amusement, but because I remembered my own first lesson decades ago. "Don't overthink it," I told him. "The piano doesn't demand perfection, just honesty." He laughed. "That's harder than you think." Week after week, Noah kept showing up. At first, it was purely about music. He'd sit on the bench, eyes fixed on the sheet, biting his lip whenever he missed a note. I'd patiently guide him, sometimes placing my hand over his to show the right pressure or movement. He'd tense, then exhale slowly, and I'd feel the shift in his focus. It was during one of those moments, my hand lightly over his, that I felt him shake. It wasn't dramatic, just a faint tremor that made him look at me as if he wasn't entirely sure how to breathe. I didn't pull away. Not because I wanted to blur any line, but because I could see that pulling away would break his concentration completely. Instead, I kept my voice steady, guiding him through the measure until his hands moved more fluidly. After the lesson, he lingered by the window, watching the drizzle outside. "You know," he said softly, "I didn't think I'd actually keep up with this. But every week, I look forward to it more." It was such a simple thing to say, yet I felt it settle somewhere in my chest in a way I hadn't expected. Daniel rarely noticed my piano work anymore. It wasn't that he didn't care, it just wasn't his world. But Noah, he listened. He asked questions. He wanted to know why certain chords made people feel certain emotions, why I preferred Chopin over Liszt. Over the next few months, our lessons became a small island in my week. A place where the outside world didn't intrude, where conversations flowed between music theory and stories about his childhood. He told me about his parents' divorce, his decision to move back to Fairview to help his sister, and the way the ocean always made him feel small but free. The first time I realized I might be crossing into dangerous emotional territory was during the winter recital I hosted for my students. Noah insisted on performing despite only having 6 months of practice. He played haltingly, missing notes here and there, but his determination filled the room with a quiet kind of courage. When he finished, I clapped harder than I intended, smiling like I hadn't in months. After everyone left, he stayed behind to help me stack chairs. "You're the first person in a long time to make me believe I could do something I thought I was terrible at," he said, meeting my eyes. I should have deflected, should have kept it about the music. But instead, I found myself saying, "You're better than you think. You just need someone to believe in you." That night, I sat in my kitchen long after Daniel went to bed, staring at the mug of tea in my hands. What was I doing? This wasn't about romance or betrayal in the physical sense. But emotionally, I knew I was investing more of myself in Noah than was safe. The turning point came in spring. Noah had been struggling with a complex piece, and I could tell he was frustrated. His shoulders were tight, his jaw set. I sat beside him, gently placing my hand over his once more. "Breathe," I whispered. He did. His hand trembled again, but this time it wasn't from nerves. It was from the weight of the moment. We both knew there was something between us, unspoken but undeniably there. And I still didn't pull away. I told myself it was about teaching, about not breaking the moment of learning. But deep down, I knew I was holding on to more than just his hand. I was holding on to the part of myself that felt alive, appreciated, and seen. In the weeks that followed, I made a choice. I would end our lessons. Not because he had done anything wrong, but because I needed to protect both of us from something we weren't prepared to navigate. I explained it gently, telling him his progress was strong enough for him to continue on his own. He didn't argue. He just nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Thank you, Elena," he said quietly, "for everything." As he left that day, the studio felt emptier than it had in years. But I also felt a strange sense of peace. Sometimes, caring for someone means knowing when to let go, before the music you create together turns into something neither of you can play without guilt.